morning. This is Lance Kenmore with the Kenmore team, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's edition of the Tri-Cities Real Estate Update. As always, you can contact me, Lance Kenmore, anytime direct on my cell phone at 727-8977, or go to kenmoreteam.com and shoot us a message there. Once again, I always like to thank John here at the station for hosting and working to make this happen. John McKay, how you doing?
Well, I can tell you this much, boy, 6 days goes by, and like we've seen before, so much changes every week, every day. I'll let you spill the big beans if people haven't heard already.
Absolutely. I mean, this week, you know, we always talk about the changes that are coming and stuff, and we're going to be talking today about when we can just jump right into our local real estate announcements. We'll be a little bit serious before we hit kind of some of the fun stuff, but construction opening back up.
Yes.
Huge announcement for the industry. We've been talking about this for weeks. We knew that there were industry groups meeting. We hinted at it last week during the show. But with some requirements, low risk construction work opened back up in the state of Washington. Now, the Home Builders Association, some of the industry trade groups, they've really been pushing for this. There are some requirements. The sites specific have to have a COVID-19 safety plan and a safety supervisor in place. They have to maintain their social distancing requirements, have access to masks and gloves if necessary. And so for a lot of people, like framers that were framing, or people that were putting siding up, or that were working outside on landscaping construction type projects by themselves, this is really huge news for that industry. Also, we were starting to get a bottleneck of new homes not being completed, and that really takes us to this week's news. So national news that reflects what just happened locally, coming out from the U.S. Census Bureau. This is the monthly report on new U.S. home sales, and all of the data is in. It's always about a month behind lagging. March data coming in, that new U.S. home sales fell 15% in March, and that is a huge decline, and is also kind of a leading indicator of where we're going, because that number uses contract signings. Those homes aren't necessarily closed or done, but those are contract signings of new home sales, and that's coming out of HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, and from the Census Bureau, those numbers. What the construction industry has been worried about is getting this bottleneck back online and clearing out some of that work. So, huge news for our industry. Gets things back moving in the direction that we're looking for, and helps with the inventory issue. Now, we're taking those national news, we're then relating it to what's happening with Inslee, and then we're talking about our specific local market. And when you look at those numbers, here's what we're looking at. So last week, I had reported that there was 517 active listings in our metro area between the four big cities. That number dropped again this week to 502. So we're almost back in that scary category when we get into the 400s.
Yeah.
And we just, in those cases, do not have the inventory that we need here in the Tri-Cities, even with everything that's going on in COVID. So
yeah.
Excited for those builders that were really struggling. That construction industry was, I know they spent a lot of time putting these plans together. I was able to be in contact with a lot of the people on those construction councils that were talking to the senators and that were meeting with Newhouse and really spending some time showing those leaders what that construction plan looked like for COVID-19. And so it was great for me to go through and review that, see the protocols that they're putting in place, and then kind of, see the reward of a bunch of people in our local community that worked to put those plans together. So it would take me too long to thank everybody individually, but there was a lot of people in our industry that were working really hard, and that directly affects the real estate industry and what's going on. So for all you local Tri-Citians that were involved in that process, thank you so much for what you guys did. And also, on another note, keeping our workers safe. And being able to find that balance between safety and economics. And it looks like we're making a little bit of progress there.
Well, we're talking, at least with this part, tens of thousands of people back on the job sites and stuff.
Back on the job sites. And with the unemployment numbers reeling to record high levels,
this will chip away a lot of that. But the rest of the non-essentials are still closed.
They are, and he did indicate in this press conference, and that there was talk that now the responsibility becomes for additional industries to roll out those plans. So the construction industry was really proactive and got a lot of those plans in place. Now they're asking for the next grouping of industries to start putting those plans in place and start rolling out what those plans look like.
You do know that Oregon is ending their ban on elective surgeries on May 1st.
Oh, I did not pay enough attention to Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
Dental offices, non-emergency surgery, that's going to be quote unquote back to normal on May 1st. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
It's going to be really interesting to watch this and see how we get back towards some of our normal routines. And and we'll be keeping a close eye on it, especially in real estate. Before I jump into some of the more serious topics, we always like to do a crazy celebrity real estate story. And McKay, if you could think of one or two businesses that big, large national businesses that have probably done well during COVID, what would be a couple of those you would think of?
Pulp and paper manufacturers. Toilet paper.
And if you can't go to
paper towels.
Stores, where would you buy that?
Sandpaper. No, I digress. Well, other than cutting down a tree and making your own, I'm not sure if you can get them at big box stores.
You could, but if you're not going out, you might order them at Amazon.
Amazon, okay.
And so I think Mr. Bezos has found a way to spend some more of his money. And so if it wasn't enough, he had purchased 3 different apartments in New York, in a skyscraper. And so it just so happened that what he was doing, for instance, he would buy the penthouse and then he would buy the 2 apartments below it. And then he would combine them all into one mega multi-story penthouse. Well, it was just a little too appetizing to him that the 4th unit to complete the floors came on the market, and it came on the market at $11.2 million. And it was reported through Street Easy that he just closed on that 4th unit for $16 million. So it was on the market for $11 million.
Wow.
But it took $16 million to buy it. Do you think the seller knew that Bezos really wanted their apartment to combine? Anytime you go $4 million over the list price, I think there was that's what you call a motivated buyer.
Yeah.
So there are now permits. They were reporting that they have now issued building permits to continue the combination, to combine all of those into a 20,000 square foot penthouse worth upwards of almost $100 million.
Wow.
So all of those Amazon orders that we've made because the stores were closed, I think a portion of those were reallocated to New York real estate. So pretty cool pictures. If you type in Bezos New York real estate, you will see that come up.
Wow.
And it's just mind-boggling when you look at the numbers and what happened there. But, I think the thing is location. That seller at $11 million, the best thing that they had going for them is that they were right next to Bezos' 3 other units. And there was no option. Like he could go down a 3rd floor and then you just have more stairs. So sometimes you never know when having that location can be a phenomenal thing. And to think in this market that would happen on the high end upper luxury real estate is absolutely crazy. So. Well, back to reality and what is happening in the real estate market
now that we're not playing with monopoly money.
Right. We talked a little bit about some of the local stuff that's going, getting construction back online and up and going. So exciting news to hear that. A few other things, though, from the national sites, and it is still for real estate scary times for those businesses. You look at a company like Redfin, which is basically a discount brokerage located over in Seattle. Their model's a little bit different to where they would pay their agents like employees, and then they would go out and show the houses, and totally different model. Interesting, though, they've had to furlough 41% of those agents. Now, what's also, when we have times like this, we also see technology innovation come out of that. So what did Redfin do when they had to do that? They had to furlough a bunch of those agents. There were also restrictions in place that said the agents can't show the house. And for certain localities and neighborhoods, they weren't allowed to go out and show the house. So what was the answer, McKay, as a buyer? Go show yourself the dang house. And so they've started a program. They've launched a program called Direct Access.
Which is basically a fancy term for helpy selfie.
Helpy selfie for vacant homes. They are changing out the front door lock to a smart door lock that you then use an app on your phone to access. Now, there's some background checks and some requirements. As a buyer, you have to go to the site, put in your information, put in your driver's license, and you have to provide them enough information to where you pass that background check. Then they will allow the app to access the house from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And so then as a buyer, you just go out, you get your cell phone, type in the code, opens the lock on the front door, you show yourself through.
I would have to say, just off the top of my head, this is only going to appeal really to highly motivated buyers, because a lot of people are going to look at that and go, eh.
Well, you're exactly right.
Too many hoops.
Yeah, I mean, potentially too many hoops. But it is times like this where we have drastic things that we've never seen before in our lifetime.
Yeah.
That creates results that we've never seen before in a lifetime. If you told me I was just going to, put lock boxes on houses and let buyers go show themselves through, I mean, I'd tell you were crazy, or drunk. I don't know. But I'd just be like, yeah, sure, we're going to let buyers go through the houses by themselves. But these are the type of solutions that are coming out of it. Now, this isn't exactly brand new. Zillow and a few other companies on the technology platforms have tried this over the course of the last couple of years, but they didn't have the acceptance like they're getting now because there's another reason. It might not just be, easeability for buyers. Now we have a health scenario to look at on the other side of things and limiting contact. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. The flip side of this, where they've had problems in the past, is very, very savvy squatters. Meaning they can fill out those forms well enough to get approval to get the house open. The problem is they're not leaving at 8 p.m. They're moving into the house that night. And then once they move into the house, you could have a tenancy issue with a squatter.
Yeah, and then they would just leave shortly before 8 a.m. and then come back that night.
Or not even that. Change the locks. No sign of forced entry.
Wow.
And then just claim that that's their house or they were renting it. So now you have to go through a court proceeding to remove them. Seems like a really great idea from a technology perspective and up front. But as we start to look at all of these other issues, this isn't the last time I'm going to present that story in the news.
Unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences that come out. So very, very interesting there. Other cutting edge brokerages, eXp Realty, Compass, Nationals, we're seeing nationwide those companies make cuts, make massive cuts. There were salary cuts that happened at Compass. Anybody making 75K and under, we're taking 10% cuts. Anybody making over 75K, we're taking a 20% cut.
Wow.
Now, I did some quick math, McKay. That part of the story kind of bothered me. Because in that scenario, the guy that kind of gets the short end of the stick, I think, is the guy that's making 80. So his buddy's making 70 and takes a 10% cut, goes down to 63,000. He's making 80, so he was making 10K more than his buddy. He's required to take a 20% cut. He goes down to 64,000. Now, once again, unintended consequences, right? This seems like a great thing to report in the news, a great policy to implement in your company. But now, is that guy just really mad every day because he's not making proportionally the same amount that he was before?
And you'll probably be getting his resume on your desk next week.
So anyway, just really interesting when you start to evaluate some of these policies and procedures that are coming out in real estate because of COVID. So we talked a little bit about what is happening locally. So we've gone over everything that's going on nationally and how that affects our market. Awesome to see construction back in place. But I wrote down this week as we went through the week, what are people, as we're on the phone all week and we're talking to our database and we're talking to our clients and our listeners, what are people asking? And I will tell you, call after call, the number one thing that I wrote down that I'm getting right now is this a good time to buy or sell? I can't have a conversation or run into somebody without talking about that right now. And that's the $1 million question. That's what a lot of people are looking at. So, we have to start with expectations of what you're trying to accomplish. If you're going to have to sell your house in the next 2 years, regardless, maybe it's a job transfer, maybe it's retirement, maybe you're downsizing, and you say to me, regardless of what happens, I'm going to sell in the next 2 years. So is now a good time to sell? We're going to have a conversation that probably leans towards we very well could look at selling right now, because there's a concept that we call equity protection. And when you look at an event like this that has happened, is right now you basically know where prices are at. I still have good data of even what's been selling the last month during COVID. Now, if you think as a nation we can borrow $835 billion to do a bailout and things are going to get better next year, I think you and I need to have a much longer conversation. Because that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. And so if we think the worst is right now as far as pricing, I'm going to be counseling that I actually think we could see it be worse. We're also coming off, I went back and looked at our show notes from 3 months ago and 4 months ago, and we were analyzing just how good this market has been. When we're looking at historically 3 to 5% appreciation, and the last 3 to 4 years, we've had over 10%. Something's got to change at some point. Now, we surely didn't think it was going to be COVID, but that's going to help it happen. So we haven't seen that curve start to change yet at all. And I tell you what, if this goes away in 3 months, sure, let's not talk about it and worry about it. But based upon what we're reading and seeing and hearing, that's a tough bet to make with your equity in your home. We put a number of homes on the market last week, and 3 of those were still in multiple offers. So you were in this great time where the supply is still low and there's enough buyers out there looking that we can get into multiple offers. Now, that's one side of the equation, considering that you have to sell in the next years. If you don't, if you like your house and you would be fine there for the next 5 to 7 years, then you and I are going to sit back and I'm probably going to say, look, you don't have to sell. You're not trying to accomplish a very specific task within a 24-month time frame.
Yeah.
This might not be the right time to sell for you. If you want to ride it out and let's see what happens, great. If not, and you have investments and savings and bonds other places, and for your financial health, it's your house. You live there. You love it for emotional reasons and for convenience. If that's the case, let's talk about you not selling. And so those are the conversations we're having right now that are the most valuable. Now on the buy side, just real quick, because we're coming up on our first break. When I come back from the break, I'm going to talk about why you might consider buying right now and the signs that point towards how it could be a very good idea in specific situations.
Right here on News Talk 870.
Welcome back to the Tri-Cities Real Estate Update. Today we've been talking about COVID update number 5. Number 5 is alive, McKay. That's what I say.
Yeah.
We got construction back rolling, and my agents are getting used to selling in the new environment, and we're out there helping buyers get into houses, helping sellers that have to sell move. We're able to do that safely and healthy right now. And I mean, we have our safety protocols in place. And I think that's kind of the new normal that people are talking about as they go through that. I hope to be telling you in 2 months it's the old normal. But none of us know that right now. So before the break, I had mentioned a little bit about what's happening with buyers, why some are buying right now. Couple things, and I fielded a number of calls from people this week about that, and they asked me, what do you think about buying right now? So we go through the process and we talk about it. What price range are you in? And more importantly, is employment steady for you right now? What's that look like from a mortgage perspective and from lending? So we've been having those conversations, and one of the things we were dealing with in this spring market is 4, 5, and 6 offers on a property. Now, I mentioned before the break, we had properties, 3 of them last week, that had multiple offers on them. But it wasn't 4, 5, and 6 offers. It was 2 offers. And one of those had 3, I believe. And so I'm not going to say it's calm. Calm would be 0, 1 offer, but it's a little bit easier right now. So buyers are in a position right now where there's probably not 5 or 6 showings that afternoon when it hits the market. You might have a little better chance of getting that house. You might even, shockingly, I don't want to say this out loud too much, but you might even get some closing costs in this market, where before it was like not a chance in the multiple offer position. And so, I think it's important for a buyer to look at that and say, gosh, if I find the right house right now, I've had steady employment. This could be a chance for me to nab that before we get back to the craziness of a summer market. And I will tell you, with construction opening back up, in a month and a half or 2 months from now, we could potentially see new homes hitting the market, very nice homes hitting the market. You're going to a little more available, but buyers are going to be out looking again. Lots of them, especially there's this feeling of pent up demand. So right now could be an opportunity. Now, is it a little bit more difficult? Yes, but what my agents are telling me and the people that I'm talking to and the sellers that we're talking to, if somebody is coming through your home for a showing right now or scheduling it to where just one person can go in at a time, they are not what we call in the industry looky-loos. Yeah. These people are serious, and there's a reason why they have to buy. It's not super fun to go to a house, put a mask and glove on, watch my wife go in with the realtor, and then come back out and be like, oh, this is really nice, and make sure you check this out. And then I go in by myself. I'm just putting myself in the shoes of that buyer. That's a lot different than how it used to be when we'd, stop at the winery, have a a quick wine tasting and then be like, oh man, there's an open house sign. Let's check it out on my Sunday drive. Like that is not happening anymore. And I'm not saying that eventually that didn't sell houses, but it's a very different dynamic of who's looking right now. So, so be ready for that. If you have questions about that, that is what we're doing right now, is talking to people and fielding a lot of questions. Go to kenmoreteam.com, shoot my team a message. They would love to chat with you about that. The third thing that I wrote down in this case that people should know about right now, and the question that I'm getting a ton right now, is which lender should I be working with?
Yes.
And I got to tell you, I'm insistent about this, and you've heard the show and listened to it a long time. I've been insistent about it for years, for pretty much ever, but more so right now, is get to a local lender. Get to somebody that lives here, that will answer the phone, that will talk to you about what's happening. And you might say to yourself, gosh, why are you more insistent about that now? Well, for instance, if you call another state, and I've done this and I've talked to other agents out there, you might talk to somebody that has no restrictions right now in real estate. And so if it's a national lending company and they just talk to one agent who has no restrictions, and we can get the appraisal done and we can close in 30 days in Georgia, and it's no problem at all. Yeah. And then you're talking to that loan officer about your file in Washington, and he says, oh, yeah, no problem. We're closing loans in 30 days. It's great. There's no restrictions. It's fine. I don't know what you're talking about. Then you're going to get yourself in a pickle. You're going to miss your closing date. And then what's been happening a lot lately, and I'll just tell you guys, with some of those nationals like that, is the rates are changing, and they're fluctuating daily, up and down, and bigger changes and fluctuations than we're used to. Overall, yes, they're low, but the fluctuation within a day, the pricing of that loan can change a couple times during the day based upon what's happening. Well,
and if you don't have a local agent that you can call him up 6 hours later, or he calls you, if you got to wait for the national guy.
And then you could miss that fluctuation. Yeah. And then even worse is what's happening is they're not knowing about these delays. So people are locking that low interest rate, and then they're not able to close in 30 days. It's taking 50 or 60, or there's a little thing called a rate lock extension. So if you don't, when you lock your rate, it's good until your closing day. And if you have that set at 30, it costs more to lock the rate longer. So you miss your closing date because they didn't know what was going on. And now you're having to pay $900 a week before you close because you want to extend your low rate. So that's just one example of things that could be happening right now. So get pre-approved with your local lender. Talk to somebody in the Tri-Cities that has a reputation of closing a lot of loans, that have been around and knows what's going on. If you have any questions about that service, please let me know, and we can hook you up with the right people to take care of that. But yes, be talking to a local lender in Tri-Cities that knows what's going on in Washington State, that knows what's going on in our county.
Someone with a Tri-City zip code,
and follow up with that. So I'm even more aggressive about that than I have been in the past. Those are our big questions. Those were our top 3 as I went through this week that we spent the most time talking about. I'm going to wrap up here with what I call the Pick 3 segment. We put on some awesome new listings, and I'm super excited about this because, like I talked about, listing inventory is down. So when we are putting on new stuff, it's giving people an opportunity to, be quarantined, look at some of those awesome 3D tours from the comfort of your own home. But pick number 1 that I've got is 58211 East Christie Road. And I'm going to take you down to Plymouth. We're not down there very often. If you're headed down to like Umatilla right before you cross the bridge, take a right there on Highway 14, Plymouth. And this is a beautiful. So once again, I said right before you cross the Columbia River. What does that mean? This home has Columbia River views.
Yes.
So this is a 3-acre estate, 3,200 square feet, energy efficient home with stunning river views. It's got beautiful tile flooring in it. Soaring ceilings invite you into a huge, oversized great room. Grand warming fireplace, and then the kitchen, meal prep. If you're doing meal prep like you are during the quarantine, this is where I would want to do it. Gourmet kitchen, raised eating bar, granite tile counters. Then you have a beautiful staircase up to a master suite that has its own private deck for looking out at the river. An additional 14 by 10 sitting room off the master, plus his and her bathrooms off of the master. So that's nice when you're getting ready to go to sleep at the same time at night. So very, very cool, very, very cool house. 12-inch walls construction for energy efficiency. I mean, high energy efficiency. It's just absolutely well done up property, real close to the Plymouth Park and the boat launch, private location with gated driveway. And I'm going to tell you, this house has something in that great room that I have never seen before in 20 years of real estate.
No, I was going to say foosball.
I'm not going to tell you, and I'm not going to tell the listeners. I'm purposely going to drive traffic selfishly to my website. If you want to see the great room and the beauty of this house with what's included, go to kenmoreteam.com, 58211 Christie Road. Gorgeous house. Take a look at this. You're going to want a tour of this house.
I was going to blurt something out, but I won't.
Okay. Well, you will tell me next week, McKay.
Yes, I will.
Pick number 2, 3001 South Dawes in Kennewick. This is right up there in Southridge. Beautiful, just like new, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2,300 square feet, beautiful curb appeal, stone rock, solid block fenced backyard, gorgeous backyard. Inside, you've got a modern island kitchen with granite countertops, full tile backsplash, huge island. I mean, both of these in the pick 3, the first 2 just have amazing kitchens. You've got also stainless steel appliances, a dining area, walk-in pantry. I read somewhere that the quarantine is now when people discover how important pantries are.
Yes.
And why we have pantries in our houses. And this one has a great one. Then the master has a dual sink vanity, tiled walk-in shower with a sauna that is included in the price of the house. Family room, flex space, finished 3-car garage. Just absolutely awesome property, and that is right up there in Southridge, and that's coming in at $395,000.
Wow.
And then pick number 3, this is just the ultimate quarantine house. This is out in Badger Canyon, Cottonwood Springs, great neighborhood, 98515 Canyon View Drive. This house is 4,400 square feet of luxury. It is a 6-bedroom, 3-bath, and a bonus room, Rambler with a basement, split bedroom design, spacious kitchen, private master suite, has French doors leading out to the deck. You've got a walk-in closet, soaking tub, shower. I mean, really everything that you have this house, everything you would need this house has. And then you go outside when you think that's not enough. And this is why I want to quarantine here. They've got an in-ground swimming pool, low maintenance landscaping, and then it's got a 40 by 20 shop. Ooh. And this is on top of the finished 3-car garage. 40 by 20 shop, and then it's got a really cool overhang off the side of the shop, which is covered RV parking. So if you had a motorhome you want to pull in there, or your trailer, I mean, you've got your covered trailer right there beside the shop. You don't have to go to storage, get all your camping gear. You just load it up right out of the shop. I mean, this place is super nice. It's also got a complete solar panel system, and that keeps summer electrical bills to around $30 a month. So wow. Huge estate like that, you're getting all of this, and that's coming in at $699,900, and with the lower interest rates right now, it's making those upper end homes more affordable. Go to kenmoreteam.com, check out our virtual tours of those houses if you're in the market and decide that's one of the top ones and would like to take a personal tour. Let us know and we can line that up with our COVID-19 showing guidelines, and we would love to do that.
Absolutely.
Well, we are excited about what's happening in real estate. We're getting back to a market and getting some sales together and figuring out our way through all of these changes with everybody else in town. If you need anything at all, go to kenmoreteam.com and shoot us a message, and we will be right back here next week.
Right here on News Talk 870.